Welcome, everybody, to Connecting the Universe. I'm author and researcher Mike Ricksecker, back at you with another interactive class out of the secret library of the Connected Universe. We have a wonderful episode up for you this evening, Secrets of the Stargates. You know, I am absolutely fascinated with Stargates, portals. Well, my latest book, Portals to the Stars, of course, covers this in depth, and we're going to be hitting on a lot of these topics throughout the evening. So what exactly is a Stargate? How do they work? Where do we find Stargates across the world? And what purposes did the ancients use them for? A lot of this type of information we're going to be diving into this evening. Won't be able to get to all of it. There's just not a way to. There's so much, but we will be diving into quite a lot of it. All right. Well, for those that are listening to the podcast version of this later, please join us every Wednesday night, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, connecteduniversalportal.com. That's where we run the live show. That's where you'll get to watch the video clips. That's where you will get to see the slide presentation, all the photos that I'm going to post throughout this entire session. And for those that are members of the Connected Universe Portal, we have some special things on tap for you after the show during the after show. So connecteduniverseportal.com. The public, hey, we're running here on YouTube, but yeah, for those that are interested in being members, you can sign up. Well, you can sign up at Connected Universe Portal. You can sign up on Patreon as well. Those that are the time traveler level on Patreon, you get access to Connected Universe Portal and vice versa. So you get the after show here, of course. You get the monthly Q&As, exclusive articles, sneak peek and behind the scene videos, the Mike Morning Mug stuff, all the Egypt stuff, and all the other places that we go to around the world, whether it's Ireland, the UK, the American Southwest, doing Germany next year. You're going to get all of that material. And then, yeah, you can check that out on Patreon as well. So part of this evening, kind of like we did last week. Last week, we dove into the interdimensional universe. And like I said last week, part of that is going to be featured, or there's going to be a deeper dive this September 27th at the Wandle House Museum, Brewster, Ohio, the special interdimensional universe presentation. We're going to be diving into interdimensional beings, consciousness and time travel, stargates, portals, and ancient symbolism. I have the link there down in the description. It's going to be an incredible evening at a very historic location there in Ohio. So come join us September 27th. And also part of this, Stargates of Ancient Egypt tour, which we are going on in November. We still have some spots that are open, and we are taking registration pretty much till a week and a half into September. So if you want to jump on board, you better jump on it now. I have the link in the description for that as well. So, all right. Enough of all that. We need to start getting into this, don't we? So I see Michelle Brandenburg is in the house. Yes. Hey, all you beautiful people. Wonderful. Emil's with us as well. Farina, nice to see you, and others as well. All right. So let us finally get into the show. Stargates. Like I said, you know that this is a favorite topic of mine. And yeah, this was a new piece of artwork that I found along the way. Ended up using it for my Did Moses Use Stargates video the other day. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. That is right here on the YouTube side of things. That is on the YouTube channel. And those that are following me on other social media, you've probably seen this as well. Like Moses using Stargates. Are you kidding me? We're going to get into that in a little bit. So stay tuned. We will dive into that. So we have to ask ourselves, of course, since we're talking Stargates, what exactly is a Stargate? So a Stargate really is an intelligent being's ability, not necessarily human, but intelligent being's ability to harness the power and technology of a portal and to use it at their will. We've talked a lot in the past about portals, what exactly portals are. Portals are naturally occurring in nature. That's kind of the naturally occurring in nature. Nice. I did that again. I did that the other day too. It's like, well, of course, if it's in nature, it's naturally occurring. The portals occur naturally in nature. the ability to harness that and do with it what you want. To go to, we're going to get into these different things, other places in the cosmos, other places on Earth, et cetera, et cetera. The ability for an intelligent being to harness that and use it like that, that makes a portal a Stargate. So, since we're on this topic, we're going to dive into a little bit here before we get into how they were using this in the ancient world, kind of the premise and backbone of what this is. So, we have to start with, of course, the Einstein-Rosen bridge. Albert Einstein, Nathan Rosen devised this idea. You guys have heard me talk about this before, at least those that have been around here for a while. You have two different distant points in space. Can't get to them, as humans, because we just don't have the resources and we don't have the lifespan to do it. But we want to get there from one to the other. How do we do that? Well, if we are able to bend space and time, and that's the trick. How do we bend space and time? Somehow. We don't have the technology ourselves yet, but if we were to bend space and time and bring those 2 points closer to each other, we could connect them with a tunnel and be able to travel much, much quicker than the average bear. And there we go. So we'd be able to make that happen. Well, here's the thing about this. People have that vision in their mind of the tunnel that they're going to travel through. And we have depicted this in a lot of science fiction, whether it's Star Wars, Stargate, Contact, all of these types of films. And it's always the tunnel. And they, like even Stargate is just really, really blatant. We have a big circle here. We turn it on, it fills with water, which is interesting. And we walk into it, and all of a sudden we zip through this tunnel, and off we go to some other place. The thing is, a circle is a two-dimensional object, right? That opening is two-dimensional. A circle in three-dimensional space is a spherical hole. So this is more along the lines of what we would be looking for to try to find, okay, where do we actually have stargates? Where do we have portals? It would actually be something spherical in nature rather than just a giant hole. Like, portals in the wilderness. Is it going to be a giant hole that's just standing in front of you on the path? No, it's probably going to be, well, not necessarily that. That might be what we find out in space. You have, it almost looks like there's another universe inside that sphere that you take to go. And that was in Interstellar. That's what they did. But on the path out in the wilderness, it's not just going to be the circular opening. Your spherical hole is going to be something more like that. So your glowing ball of light, some sort of plasmoid. And we have covered plasmoids here before. For the YouTube channel, I'll go ahead and link that later when we made that deep dive down into plasmoids, which was really, really fascinating, because we had, at that time that we covered that, it was the whole big drone flap. Remember that? Late last year, earlier this year. And it wasn't just the fact that it was the drones in the sky, and it wasn't just New Jersey either. This was like all over the world. But many people were reporting seeing those drones fly into and out of giant balls of light. So very well could be that the balls of light that people were seeing like this were actually the portals or stargates to enter into our world. And this is actually a glowing ball of light that was witnessed over Edinburgh, Scotland, back on December 20th. So that was provided to me by Kate. It was interesting because I had multiple people, not just Kate, I had multiple people that were sending me images that night, like there's something going on up there. And it was just like hovering there in the air. It was also a bit transformative as well. So some of the other angles like showed different shapes and things like this. It was really, really interesting. But this very well could have been some sort of portal or stargate. And so that's kind of what we are looking for when we actually are on the lookout for portals. Like when people report people going missing in the wilderness and things like that. And they talk about, okay, are they just walking through some sort of portal? It's not going to be that circular opening. They might not even see it or recognize it. Might be low to the ground and they're walking and they walk right into it. So we covered a lot in previous sessions we've done on portals. When we've talked to interdimensional universe, we've gone deep into that. So good to see Sarah down there. And Sarah, a circle is a slice of a spiral. A circle is a slice of a sphere. A spiral is a slice of a vortex. So good to see Colleen down here as well. There is Tom. Great to see you, my friend. Hope the back is doing well. So Jose says, Stargate and sci-fi is a rough visual, but what does it really look like? Well, and that's the thing, Jose, is that different cultures they built out different Stargate rooms, chambers, doorways, this sort of thing. But really what it came down to, what it still does come down to, is the ability to use that energy. So you can have a Stargate chamber that's built out like a room. You could have a doorway in the side of a mountain, whatever. It's not really so much the construction of the room as it is the way that they are able to harness the energy and use it for their own means. So it's a portal, okay? And portals come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. We have the X points that are right off the planet. We talked X points last week, so I didn't want to rehash all of that. And we've talked X points at a lot of different times. But those are naturally occurring in space. It's an interaction between the solar wind and the magnetism of the Earth, and which happens all the way down to the surface of the Earth. You also have energy coming up out of the Earth, the Earth's magnetism itself, I mean. But as that magnetism is rising up through the Earth, it's interacting with different metals and minerals, and depending on the type of metal or mineral and the quantity of it, is going to create these different localized electromagnetic fields. And that's where you have like these ancient sites of power. That's where you have these triangle areas and things like this, where you have areas like Sedona that everybody talks about, the vortices and things like this. And it's not really so much, that you walk to a spot over here and there's a vortex there, and the whole area is one big vortex. And they actually, it's interesting because the Park Service has actually done a pretty good job. If you go to Airport Mesa Trail, they've got a plaque there talking about the vortices, and they do go to lengths to explain that it's not really a whole bunch of little vortices here, and it's one big vortex. That there are some areas that are stronger than others. And there's a deer walking through my backyard. That's wonderful. Come over here. That's one of the things I love about my yard, is when things like the deer walk right through. But in any case, sorry, distraction. Beautiful though. But yeah, the whole area is one big vortex because of the way that the energy is rising from the ground, and there's something within the Earth, and it's a type of red sandstone, high quartz content sandstone, that the whole area is made out of, that the energy is interacting with. So you're going to have higher quartz content in different areas around that whole location. So that's going to create stronger areas than others throughout the region, and you'll have portals and things like this that will generate. Now, if somebody was to come along, harness one of those portals and use it at their will, that's a Stargate, and they could create that in almost any fashion that they wish. And we'll see some examples here as we go along of different formations of Stargates that different cultures have created over the years. So, real quickly, I want to kind of get into what people used Stargates for, or what you can use Stargates for. So there's the classic interstellar travel, right? Let's go from one spot in the universe to another. And that's what we see in all the films. You know, we walk through the Stargate, we you know, zip through the tunnel, and go from Earth to some other planet. And that is something that a Stargate could be used for. Absolutely. That is absolutely on the table. It's not out of the question. That could be how a lot of ETs and extraterrestrials come into our world. I do believe that we have craft that have come here, craft that visits us regularly, craft that has crashed for whatever reason why it crashed. And people question that too, like, how does a race of people who has mastered this technology, how do they actually crash? Well, as with anything, even our technology today that we have mastered is not foolproof. And we can say we've mastered aviation. We have mastered ground transportation. There are still accidents. There are still times in which a machine could be running perfectly for 5, 6, 10 years, and all of a sudden it doesn't want to work anymore. It breaks down. Things happen. Sometimes there's operator error. It happens. So some of those beings, I believe, have come across the cosmos, whether that was through a Stargate. Some of them are interdimensional in nature. We talked about that last week. We then also have interplanetary travel. So it is amazing to me how we have so many structures around the Earth that are similar to each other in nature. So it's just showing Chichen Itza and the Step Pyramid there at Saqqara, two totally different parts of the world constructed the same. You have like spirals. We find the spiral symbol all over the world in all kinds of different cultures. Here you have Chaco Canyon, American Southwest. Sardinia is in the middle. On the right-hand side, you have Egypt, and that's on a cosmic egg, which a cosmic egg is another symbol that we find throughout cultures all over the world. People point out like the handbags. We're actually going to see the handbags. Actually, those that are sticking around for the after show, the members of the Connected Universe, we'll touch on the handbags in the after show. And then, the pine cones, that's another one. We find that all over the world. So there was something that was connecting these cultures that our traditional academia tries to say, well, they weren't connected. They were disconnected for thousands and thousands of years. Yet somehow they all kind of tuned into the same architecture and the same symbolism and things like this. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So here, I'm going to play a video on this. This is Elephantine Island in Egypt. It's part of our Stargates of Ancient Egypt tour. And what I'm pointing at there in the photo is a figure that looks like it's wearing a Mayan headdress. So the image at top, that's a Temple of Khnum. Totally, completely obliterated. Looks like something blew right through that gate and knocked everything over on the other side, like, children's building blocks. And then down the hill from there, you have the Temple of Satet. And Satet is the one wearing the headdress, putting an amulet on the king to go inside the Holy of Holies for protection. It's like a Mayan headdress. So I'm going to play a video here from last year's tour discussing this. Okay, here we are in front of possibly a Stargate. We don't see the symbolism on here. Okay, here we are in front of possibly a Stargate. We don't see the symbolism on here, but it's the only thing still standing of this temple. And when we go back there and see some of the massive granite blocks that are back there, heavy, multiple tons, it's like a massive force blew right through here and knocked everything over, through the Stargate. Just knocked over like it was nothing. So imagine, okay, you have the gate back there, and whatever happened, a force blows through and just topples it all over. It does have that resemblance to a Mayan headdress. So then we have to ask the question, what is this style doing here? Well, we're talking about a Stargate just up the hill. So you can put pieces together and start to draw a story. Were they utilizing Stargates to go to the Americas and incorporate some of that culture here, or meeting people that were wearing these type of headdresses? We see connections back to other parts of the world where you see, okay, you look at the step pyramid, oh, it looks like a lot like Chichen Itza. Were they able to exchange that technology using Stargates, like what may be up here? Also, you'll notice that it's a different color than some of the other blocks here. That's because that is not the original block. The original block was removed from here. It's in the Louvre, and you'll see several of those around the temple like that. I was at the Louvre last year just before coming here and was checking out their Egyptian section, and it's like half of this temple is there in the Louvre. It's pretty crazy. All right, you'll have to bear with me here. It's still not playing correctly on my side. It's just an issue that's been going on with this platform for last month and a half, but I know it's playing fine on your side. So I know it kind of had the start and stop there at the beginning. But all right, yeah, Tom, Sarah and I can build a Stargate. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. Love to see what you guys can come up with, of course. And yeah, Michelle, absolutely. The spirals are completely fascinating. They are all over the world. And this is really, I mean, it's a double entendre of sorts. So you have the symbolism of the portal, and it's also, we're not going to get into it this evening, but it's also a symbol of Atlantis. But that is a topic for another time. We have talked about it before here on the channel, on the podcast, within the Connected Universe all the time. Sarah's also asking, how does the magnetism aspect work in areas such as Egypt? We're going to get into that a little bit later on in this episode, but basically, yeah, it is a harnessing of the energy, and there are areas around the world that have that heightened energy as well, because of, like what I was saying before, of as that magnetism rises up through the earth, depending on what it's interacting with, what type of metal and mineral, and the quantity of it, it creates those localized electromagnetic fields that are stronger in nature. So we'll cover that a little bit more here toward the end. So yeah, great to see you down there, Sylvain. Awesome. Gregory as well. Wonderful. All right. So that's interplanetary transportation, moving from one place on the planet to another. We talked at length last week about interdimensional travel, so I'm not going to get very deep into that this time around, because that was just watch last week's episode. So also time travel. You could use a portal or a Stargate to move from one point in time to another. This is an example of the Versailles time slip. We're not going to a little bit beyond the scope of tonight's topic, getting into time travel. So we've done a lot of work on time travel before. We will revisit that again, as always. But yeah, we're not diving into stacked time theory this evening. But you can use a portal or Stargate to move from one point in time to another, especially those that are interdimensional in nature, that are coming from one of those higher spatial dimensions that are outside of time. Remember from last week, we have 11 dimensions, 0 through 10. Our consciousness is in the fourth dimensional consciousness inside a third dimensional body. Those that are 5, 6, 7, 8 and onward are outside the scope of time, and they can easily move in and about time and connect those moments in time with portals and Stargates. So we can also use Stargates for communication, and I get a kick out. Of course, this is AI generated, but yes, you have your ancient Egyptian on a cell phone communicating through a Stargate. And we're going to get a little deeper into the whole communication aspect here very shortly, but wanted to go ahead, and people want to see examples of Stargates and talk about some of the uses of them over the years. So we are going to get into that here for a moment. So, I'm going to dive deep into Egypt as we go along here because, that's a place where I do a lot of work at. Again, Stargates of Ancient Egypt tour this November. Link is down in the description. But we're going to go to Amarumuru, right on Lake Titicaca. This is a really, really interesting Stargate. It's 12,000 feet above sea level. It's in Peru. And it really is a combination of two doors. So the outer edge that you see carved in there, that is the gate of the gods, 22 feet high, 22 feet wide. The smaller door that's within there, and notice that it's that T shape, okay? That's important. That's something that we're going to cover more in depth during the after show. But that T shape like that is the doorway for the humans. Now, as the legend goes, and this is made of a high quartz sandstone, but as the legend goes, when the Spanish conquistadors were invading, they were chasing the native cultures across the land, basically genocide, like, you're going to comply with us or we're going to kill you. So as they're being chased across the Andes Mountain, the last emperor walked up to that doorway, and there's a notch in the back. It didn't provide a good photo of the notch. If you squint, you can kind of see it back there, but there's a notch that's in the back of that doorway. And he took something out of his pocket, put it into the notch, and all of a sudden there was a light that came out, and he walked through the doorway. It was never seen again. So this is the Stargate. I've not been there yet. I will within the next couple of years. But from what I understand, on the backside of this is a giant rock outcropping near the lake. On the other side of it, there is a tunnel that goes back basically up to the back of where that doorway is. And it kind of dead ends. They've blocked it off. They do not allow people in there anymore because, well, accounts according to the locals, people were going into that tunnel and disappearing. Nobody knows what happened to them. So, but some people suspect that they were entering in through the backside of the Stargate and disappearing. So this is one of those areas that has harnessed that energy and has used it in this form. This is the way that they have constructed their Stargate. They've harnessed their energy. They're using it within this structure here to go to, well, that is the big question. Where were they going with this? Was it somewhere across the cosmos? Was it to another dimension? That part we don't really know. So it looks like we have a bunch of comments that are flooding in. Yeah, Sarah, new Connecting the Universe project. Absolutely. For your building your Stargate. Go for it. And wonderful to see some of the other comments down there. All right. And Trevor Grassi is in the house. Great to see you, Trevor. Wonderful. So hoping to see Trevor on the Stargates of Ancient Egypt tour. So he's looking to join us for Hawara, the Egyptian labyrinth. Okay, let's take a look at the Ranmaso Uyana Stargate in Sri Lanka. This is an interesting one. Ranmaso Uyana is basically it's a park now. It used to be part of a palace. It's the actual ancient rock carving itself is Sequala Shakira, which is a little bit of a tongue twister to say. But the park itself is Ranmaso Uyana. Had been the royal gardens originally constructed by King Tissa in the 3rd century BC. Later additions added on, and so on. What's interesting is when you look at this feature, okay, so archaeologist H.C.P. Bell in 1911 stated that he believed it was an old attempt at creating a map of the world. And that idea has stayed ever since, so over 100 years ago. And the traditional archaeology has said, yep, that's what it is. We've figured out other information over the past 100 years. But you look at this thing, and this is interesting. So I don't know how well you can see it, but there's a large spiral or concentric circles feature right in the middle of it. There's also one in the upper left quadrant, which is smaller. And then you have all these circles with crosses, which to me are representative of stars. So some people believe that this is actually a map to where the Stargate is. So not the Stargate itself, but it's a map to where the Stargate is. And it makes a lot of sense. If you were to look at this in those crosses with the circles as stars, maybe they were a particular constellation according to that culture. We don't know. But this could very well be a map. And then the large concentric circle feature could be the portal on this end of it. And, you have perspective here, the smaller one, and the further distance, that's the destination. This could be telling us where it is or where it's going to take a person if they travel through it. So this is a different sort of representation of a Stargate. And I believe it is more of a map to the Stargate rather than the Stargate itself. But it's one that a lot of people are throwing different ideas and different theories at it. And yet traditional academia tries to say that it's an early attempt at a map of the world, which is just bizarre to me. But there you go. Thank you, traditional academia. All right. So I mentioned before that we were going to get into communication. That was going to be a bit of a focus of this particular interactive class on Stargates, because we have talked about a lot about Stargates in the past before. So some of you may have seen me post about this already, and there is a video here on the YouTube channel talking about this. I've thrown out some TikToks and some Instagram reels and things like that. Actually doing a YouTube short on this doesn't like it. YouTube just does not want to talk about, did Moses use Stargates? Yeah, and I know it seems absolutely bizarre. Like, what in the world are you talking about? Moses? Yeah, like the one who parted the Red Sea and all that. Yeah, that's the Moses I'm talking about. So let's get into it. So there's a recent discovery here. This came out last week, or at least that's when I saw it, was inscriptions from turquoise mines in Egypt, in the Sinai Peninsula. That, well, they were discovered over 100 years ago by Sir Flinders Petrie. So Trevor's down there in the chat. Sir Flinders Petrie, of course, did a lot of work there at the Egyptian labyrinth at Hawara. But he was, one of those early pioneers in all of this research. And so what he had uncovered with these inscriptions, they couldn't really tell what they were. They knew there were some sort of inscriptions in these mines, and it took modern 3D imaging, high resolution scans, all of this to be able to figure this out. So I have a clip here that I'm going to play real quick. That is from, it's a piece of the video that I posted the other day, explains this a little bit, and then we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive into it. Just recently, archaeologists have deciphered inscriptions from an old Egyptian turquoise mine in the Sinai Peninsula, which appears to talk about Moses. One inscription says in ancient Hebrew, "This is from Moses," and the other one says, "A saying of Moses." The age of these inscriptions date back to the reign of the Egyptian king Amenemhat III around 1800 BC. What do these inscriptions have to do with Stargates? It has to do with the fact that they were found in the turquoise mines. In the Temple of Seti at Abydos, we have so far found 5 Stargate chambers. And for two of them, the antechamber just outside of them is known as the Hall of Ptah Soker. Within this hall, we find ancient reliefs describing the ingestion of monatomic white gold cakes from turquoise land in the Sinai area just before entering the Stargate chambers. Here's a clip from our Stargates of Ancient Egypt tour, in which our tour guide and owner of Saba Tours, Muhammad Ibrahim, shows us the inscriptions and how for many years these white gold cakes were actually misnamed mufkuts. Mufkuts actually means turquoise.
This is what we call it, the mufkut. As I told you earlier, I never deny any story 100%, even if I am not convinced. And suddenly I realized the writings under that word. So you can see again, this is the symbol called mufkut. And this symbol is called shait. Hatshepsut, white cake. They say that they eat the white gold to have these powers like natives. So it could be white cake. It's only a different way to call it. The mufkut is still wrong.
Didn't you say mufkut is turquoise?
Turquoise.
Yeah.
So for sure it's turquoise, but I know why it is called mufkut now. Because most of the white shahid or the white powder was found in mufkut land in Sinai.
Okay.
In the turquoise land. That's why it got this name.
So that's where it's from.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
All right, and again, I apologize for the starting and stopping there at the beginning. It's barely playing at all on my end, and that's just because of all the changes they made on the platform. So I'm probably going to be looking into a different solution here very soon. But yeah, so Muhammad gave you the breakdown and how we were connecting essentially the turquoise mine where these inscriptions were found to the Stargate chambers there at Abydos with the monatomic white gold cakes. The Hatshepsut people were misinterpreting as mufkuts, but connecting that to the turquoise mines, it brings us to the Moses inscription. A couple other fun things about that is you got the Ramses with the snake staff there at Abydos, but again, Ramses kind of, it took credit for pretty much everything, and Ramses was not the actual pharaoh of the Bible story. That Pharaoh's never actually named in the biblical story of it, but that's an aside. So yeah, Trevor saying Sir William Flinders Petrie was the man. Yeah, that man was all over the place, and I cannot wait till we go to Hawara and investigate all that. So Michelle has a question. The two top squiggly lines, they're similar, but one is larger than the other. Do they have different meanings due to size? So I'm going to put the image up here, and I will be honest with you, Michelle, because I don't read ancient Hebrew. So I'm not sure if that necessarily has a different meaning. If you look at the notations on the right, so you see the more modern Hebrew character, and then the our letter, our English letter, M. So I'm going to say that they probably do have the same meaning, but you're talking people carving into a rock wall there in a turquoise mine. So it's probably challenging for them to make it perfect. So we have other connections of this mine to Stargates. So when this mine was constructed, when they were there getting the turquoise out of it, and there were all kinds of mines in this area. There were turquoise mines, gold mines, all these other minerals that they were getting out of that area. And the monatomic white gold was an alchemical byproduct of this mining and what they were doing to get the resources out of there. But this mine was constructed during the reign of King Amenemhat III. And so this is Amenemhat III. Now, he was the son of Senusret III. Senusret III is, at least at this point, our first known Stargate king of the Middle Kingdom. So we have, well, according to Muhammad, there's another one that he has found, actually back in the Old Kingdom, which is wonderful. But up until recently here, there were 5 that we knew. 2, one from the Middle Kingdom, which was Senusret III, and then the other 4 were Seti I, Ramses II, and then Hatshepsut and Thutmose III. Which again, we have that connection with Ramses. But Amenemhat III, son of Senusret III, one of our Stargate kings, and they co-ruled together for 20 years. So Amenemhat would have been privy, even though we don't find the Stargate title with his cartouche, he would have been privy to this information. He would have been privy to this knowledge. So this gives us another connection here. The other avenue that I venture down here with this idea that Moses could have been privy to Stargate knowledge and technology, well, in a couple ways. For one, according to the story, right, he was raised by royalty. Well, if he was raised by royalty that was aware of the Stargates, then he would have been privy to the knowledge of the Stargates at the temples and may have had some ideas and knowledge how they worked. Great. Well, we know that he had some interesting interaction with what's known as the burning bush. He was communicating with a bush that was presumably on fire, according to the story. Well, that could have been his interpretation of what was going on. Remember earlier, we were talking about the portals and the balls of light, the plasmoids. Well, Moses would have had no idea what a plasmoid is. I mean, it's just in his era, that would have been, that wasn't even a word that they had. They may have seen balls of light and things like this, and they may have had their own words for it, but he would have had no idea what a plasmoid is and all this sort of thing. So if he would have seen one of these things by a bush, was he actually communicating through a portal that was there by this bush when he went up the mountainside? It is entirely possible. And if he was, he would have been communicating with, remember our definition of Stargate, intelligent beings' ability to harness the power of a portal and use it at their will. So you would have had an intelligent being putting this portal right there, communicating through it purposefully with Moses, which means that it would have been a Stargate. So was the whole burning bush scene Moses communicating through a Stargate? I say it's possible. I'm not going to say it's definite. I understand it's a bit speculative, and I understand it's a bit out there, but I think this gives us some food for thought, and these are things that we have to consider. We have to look outside the box at, from what we know of the world according to our traditional academia and all that. I mean, people are going to say, throw out the word pseudoscience and all that. Well, yeah, fine, whatever. Pseudoscience from 100 years ago is our science today. So don't even try to throw that term out there. It's absurd. So we need to think outside the box. And this might seem like an idea that's out there, but again, it gives us food for thought and can lead us down the road of, even if this one is totally wrong and I'm completely off my rocker, it keeps our mind open to considering these type of ideas. And there may be others down the road that we're right about that. And we're right about that now because we have been thinking outside the box. So I always try to keep these things in consideration. All right. So, also the other thing I wanted to throw out there, and we mentioned this one last week when we wrapped up the interdimensional universe. The idea of communicating through a Stargate, simply communicating through it and not actually jumping right into it. I mean, all of our films and everything, we jump into it, we walk through it, we take our spaceship through it because we're telling the story. But the idea of just simply communicating through one of these things is not completely off base, because when scientists, there's the slide, created that baby wormhole in the lab back in 2022, the very first thing that they did to test this was simply send a message. That was it. They communicated through it from one side of the wormhole to the other. So yes, you can just simply communicate through it. All right. So earlier, people were wondering about tapping into the energy. I believe Sarah had some questions about that. Let's see. Trevor's telling us Amenemhat III also supposedly built those pyramidions at the Cairo Museum, which analysis suggests contains off-planet iron in its composition, which is really, really fascinating. So yeah, were they using that to help harness the energy? That kind of segues into everything that we are talking about right now. So harnessing the energy. Again, these are energetic locations, and in order to power these things up, we need the energy. So I'm going to play a clip here. One of my favorite locations when it comes to Stargates is Hatshepsut's temple. I think it's just beautifully designed as a Stargate. Let me play the clip for you.
We see here beautifully carved falcon. Well, what's interesting about this piece is look along the backside, the railing up the stairs. What does that look like to you? Did I hear somebody say snake? Yeah, snake tail. This may not be the actual original carving. This may have been recarved from a snake, maybe a cobra. But when you have that snake energy running up, you have a perfect picture of energy running up to inside the temple. And when we get up there, we'll see more of that Stargate symbolism, and then it goes straight up into the Holy of Holies. Off on the side here, you see these ruins back here. This is the base of an ancient pyramid. And it could be that pre-diluvians built a pyramid here, and then the dynastics coming in later took the ruins and built a temple. So you have a pyramid harnessing energy here. You have the snakes bringing the energy up into the temple there. And we'll see when we go inside why they're doing that.
All right. So Gregory says, hey, Mike, we love thinking outside the box. Good. Love to hear that. Tom is throwing out there, maybe Moses transported God to receive the commands. It could be. Maybe he just passed them through the Stargate. Like, here you go. Here are the 10 commandments. It's entirely possible. Trevor, some of the ones from, so bringing up Dasher. And that's a whole topic for another time. I love Dasher because it really shows how the corbelled structures within these pyramids were, I believe, harmonic resonance chambers, and using that sound technology. We had Steph Lechef, professional recording artist from Switzerland, on our tour last year, and got her singing within the Red Pyramid in the central chamber. And the way it was just reverberating off the walls, the resonance was just beautiful. That is a topic for another day. All right. So yeah, Hatshepsut's temple. So let's take a look at this again. This thing wants to click through. Geez. Okay. So this whole setup is beautiful. So you have the two statues on the side, which could have once been cobras. They still have the snake tails running all the way back up into the temple. Now, the Holy of Holies, which is straight back into the cliff there, is the place that you want to get to. That is the Stargate chamber. But you see this alignment all the way directly back into that room. Now, we talked about the destroyed pyramid on the side. I mean, there's basically nothing left of it. It's just a complete ruin. But we do know that pyramids were used to harness energy. Even today, modern science has shown that the Great Pyramid of Giza is harnessing energy from the earth and storing it within its chambers. It's on a much larger scale. But you have the pyramid there at Hatshepsut's temple, which I believe would have been helping to power the Stargate there. We also had one on Elephantine Island. We already talked about Stargate at Elephantine Island. That's back behind the temples there. So then, of course, as we walk into the courtyard, now the main gateway, as you're walking into the temple, has the symbolism for Great Stargate. As you head into what they call the bark hall, you have on the side there, dear tour guides, kindly don't explain inside this part. I always get a kick out of that. They don't want you to explain, but just above that, you can see the hieroglyphs, and we find our Stargate symbolism there. Reading from right to left, you see Stargate, and then the cartouche. So within the bark hall is the transportation for the gods. You can only go so far. You get stopped by your friendly guard there, and there's two of them that stand side by side. And if you tip them, they will take the picture on the left for you. Lots of fun. And where we want to go is into that room, and on one of the walls, well, I'm going to save that photo for the after show, which is an incredible cartouche full of stars. It is. If you get up there early enough, before all the rest of the public shows up, and you tip them a lot of money, they'll let you in there and they'll show you. And it's this beautiful cartouche full of stars. So I'll show that to those in the after show, because it's not my photo. So, but I do have a copy of it, and the after show isn't streamed publicly. So yeah, Hatshepsut's temple to me is like the absolute epitome of a Stargate. It's absolutely beautiful. And then when you walk out and you're walking down that grand staircase, what is straight across, you get the Nile Valley in front of you, you got the river, and directly on a line is the Temple of Karnak. And the Holy of Holies there at Hatshepsut's temple is on a direct line with the Holy of Holies at Karnak, which is also labeled as a Stargate. Wonderful, wonderful setup. Love it. They were fantastic engineers. All right, so that's Hatshepsut's temple. So what about other locations? Well, there's one other I'm going to mention during the live stream tonight. I'm going to hit on a couple of other things during the after show, and we're going to do some stuff with T-shapes and Göbekli Tepe and stuff like that during the after show. But I want to talk quickly about Stonehenge, because in other parts of the world, the way that they were harnessing the energy from the ground was through stone circles. And, kind of the same question. What were they using the stone circles for? Was that, for healing? Was it for entering into altered states of consciousness? Was it for portals and stargates? All of the above. And there is a specific setup. Like you go to the rollright stones. I've shown this to you guys before. Measurable by scientific equipment today, and you've had engineers going out there with magnetometers and all this, and there was a spiraling energy within the rollright stones. Spiral. I've never heard that term before. But just if you can really tell when you go to some of the smaller stone circles like Drombeg in Ireland, you just stand right in the middle of it and you just talk. Just simply talk. And the resonance that reverberates off of the stones. Now you're talking stones that are thousands of years old. They're not all there, and they've been weathered down over time. And just to stand there and talk, it's like this really amazing effect. It's like you're in a bubble. It's wild. It's like you're in a bubble. And it's like, wait a minute. Now, if this was, over 2,000 years ago, and I'm chanting, how is it going to sound then? And what is that sound resonance and frequency going to do to myself as a person, or if we're there to like trying to heal someone, or are we healing the person with that sound technology, or are we doing something like opening up a portal or a Stargate? Well, there's a fascinating story out of Stonehenge from the early 70s. It's known as the Stonehenge hippies. Some of you have probably heard me tell this story before. And what had happened was, and this was back in the day when you could just walk right up to the stones and camp out. And they were. There's some young adults that were up there camping out of the stones. And a storm rolled in during the night. They'd been having a fine time. Storm rolled in, though. And this was super late at night, actually, technically early in the morning. There was a farmer that was up and about doing some things in his field. And there was a policeman that was patrolling by. And all of a sudden, as this storm was kicking up, there was a bolt of lightning that hit one of the stones there at Stonehenge. The whole sky lit up blue. There were screams that came out of the circle. And so the policeman and the farmer ran up to the stones to check on the young adults that were up there. They were gone. They were completely gone. It totally disappeared. Now, the story gets chalked up to urban legend. But as with any legend or story, there's some sort of grain of truth within there. Something happened. So, my question that I've thrown out with this story is, did the lightning and the energy of the moment, whatever in the world happened, did that open up some sort of portal or Stargate that had existed in ancient times when those people first built that and were using it for whatever they were using it for throughout the whole myriad of different possibilities? Did that open their portal or Stargate that had been dormant for thousands of years and take those, they call the Stonehenge hippies, to wherever, somewhere else in the cosmos, another dimension, wherever that may be? I think it's possible. All right, let's get to your final questions and comments before we have to part ways and kick into the after show. Bella, greetings from Virginia. Thank you very much. Greetings from Ohio. Yes, Gregory, wood hinges all over the place. There are lots of wood hinges. They have found those wooden posts there around Stonehenge as well. You go over here in America to Cahokia Mounds, and there were wooden hinges there. Yeah, they are all over the place. So, and Randall, greetings from South Carolina. Wonderful to see you, Randall. All right. And let's see what else we have here. I'm not going to get into the political stuff, Star. I will not go there. I'm not going to get my channel banned. Okay, so this one, King Tut had an iron knife forged from a meteorite in his tomb. Yeah, he had the knife there that was from a meteorite, and he also had the crystal that was there on his sarcophagus that was made of Libyan desert glass, and that's one of the reasons why I have what I have right here. I have picked up some Libyan desert glass specifically because it was on King Tut's sarcophagus. Yeah, it's known as a tektite. Anything that came from the heavens, that came from the sky, they revered. It was otherworldly. It was you have to remember, with the ancient Egyptians, what we refer to as the afterlife, to them it was a part of their life. It was a journey that happened at the end of their earthly life. They just thought about it in a totally different way. And so anything that came from the heavens was basically coming from their homeworld that they were going to go back to once they were done here on Earth. Once this journey here on Earth was done, they were just making the journey to go back home. So anything that came down out of the skies like that, yeah, it was absolutely revered. So yeah, you find a lot of cultures that, of course, revered things that came down out of the heavens. All right. Let's see. Jose, besides the ancient views on time travel, do you believe that a time machine was actually created in our time? It might have been covered up by the military. Well, I mean, I believe that, for one, I believe that time travel does exist. It has. That's a whole other subject, getting into that, which I've covered at length many times. Totally different topic. But time doesn't really exist, which means time travel is, of course, existent because you're able to move in and about throughout time. I don't believe it's necessarily a machine. We're not jumping into a DeLorean with a flux capacitor and zipping off at 88 miles per hour. It's more to do with the consciousness. Topic for another time, though, and we'll get into that. So, Gregory, do you want to be a Stargate to walk into? So, I would love to travel through a Stargate. I've had that question thrown at me a lot of times before. You know, would you walk through a portal or a Stargate? Yes, I would. One caveat, I'm going to leave a note. I'm going to let people know that I'm doing it, because too many people just go walking out into the wilderness, and maybe they do consciously walk into this thing, never to be seen again. So I would let people know so that my loved ones don't worry. Hey, I'm going to walk into the portal. If you don't ever hear from me again, you know where I've gone. So Sarah, would the desert glass be an indication of high heat energy locations? So the Libyan desert glass, like Moldavite and others, basically created when a meteor strikes. And so the high heat from the meteor strike with the local, well, with the Libyan desert glass is sand, basically melts the sand and create that. With Moldavite, which is coming out of like Romania, it's the you know, you're talking about like the rich green vegetation and all that that was around when this meteorite struck, melted all of the surrounding area into, and when it cooled, it created, we call it tektite, and that's what gives it like its rich green color. So so it's interesting. All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up the public version of this. Again, those that are listening to the podcast version of this later, please join us every Wednesday night, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, connecteduniverseportal.com. Again, I do want to let everyone know that you want to deep dive into this. The interdimensional universe. Oh, let me get Sarah's comment off of there. Sorry about that. So that is September 27th, Wandelhouse Museum, Brewster, Ohio. We're going to be talking about interdimensional beings, consciousness and time travel, stargates, portals, ancient symbolism. Much deeper dive than what we've gone into here. We'll be talking about so much more. Have the link for that in the description below. Also, the Stargates of Ancient Egypt tour. I have the link for that below as well. So we still have some openings. We're taking registration only for about another month, and then it's closed. So if you're looking to jump on that now. So, all right, those that are members of the Connected Universe, let me stay on board. We got some things that we are going to be covering here. Everybody else, until next time, time really exists.